What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Maverick Raven coming at you with yet another one. And this video is necessary for a couple of reasons. Number one, some of you guys seem to not have been made aware, or you forgot about Obama's actions with in reference to his drone strikes. Um, and that's important. And I'm not trying to do a whataboutism. I'm not. It's just I wanna bring something to light. See, the people that are saying that we need to hold President Trump accountable, and they just want to lock him up, and they don't care what the story is. They're forgetting a key point. And the key point is that as soon as a case is settled in court, especially in the Supreme Court, or in a state court, it becomes precedent. Okay. Now, when you have a precedent, that means that from now on, that's how it's going to be done, because we've done it before, so they're going to look to that as the example of of the example to follow. Okay. So Obama was never held liable, or even held responsible for the killings of 3 American citizens, one of which was a 16-year-old. His name was and I'm gonna butcher this. I'm sorry, but his name was Abdurrahman al-Alaki. Okay, and that was in Yemen. That was in a strike. He killed Anwar al-Alaki, Samir Khan, and the 16-year-old Abdurrahman al-Alaki. He was never held in any type of liability, no responsibility, nothing. It was like it never happened. It was the craziest. It was like the most bizarro world thing ever. Now, we come to 2024. Justice Kavanaugh warns of vicious cycle of malicious prosecutions that could end presidency. This case has huge implications for the presidency, for the future of the presidency, for the future of the country, Justice Brett Kavanaugh says. Now, what he's saying is not hyperbolic at all. What he is saying is that if we are able to prosecute our presidents, especially in a political, because of a political reason, which it's obvious that this has been a political witch hunt, if we are able to do that, then presidents are not going to be able to act accordingly while in office. They're going to be so afraid that even though they might be acting in good faith, they can't give any orders to anybody. Remember, the president is the commander in chief. They need to be able to order around, basically the government. They're like the CEO of the country. Now, yeah, there's checks and balances, but at the end of the day, the president's the boss, and he can find ways around it to a certain extent. I'm not saying entirely, but to a certain extent. Just look at what Joe Biden has done with the pen. He's made a bunch of laws that don't make any sense, and some that were on the books already, like the hate laws that he's put forward, which there already are hate laws. So the president is a powerful position, and it needs to be a powerful position because that's the boss of the entire country. And here we go, not giving a fuck. And we're holding somebody liable for something that he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything, dude. He hasn't been charged with the January 6th stuff, and this is what we're doing here. It says, during Thursday's deliberations of the U.S. Supreme Court on former President Donald Trump's immunity claim, Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh warned that a decision in the case has future implications for whether presidents are shielded from vicious cycles of malicious prosecution that could effectively end the presidency as we know it. See, here's, I know I've been long-winded, and I apologize for that, guys. I really do. But see, here's one other thing. If it wasn't for the fact that Donald Trump was a billionaire, all of this lawfare would have ended his bid for the presidency, because he wouldn't have had the money to keep going, and he wouldn't have had the funds to hire a legal team and to keep everything else going as he's in court because a judge like Judge Merchan makes him sit in court and miss his wife's his wife's birthday, his wife's wedding, his wife's birthday, and his son's graduation. That's Judge Merchan just being a complete and total bastard. I mean, there's no other word for it. He's just a bastard for it. In the course of 2.5 hours of oral arguments on April 25th, justices on the Supreme Court appeared skeptical of a ruling by a federal appeals court that rejected President Trump's claim that he has absolute immunity, from criminal charges based on his official acts as president. And he does. He does. This is like common knowledge, dude. I would not be surprised. The Supreme Court has to rule that he has presidential immunity. They have to. They have to. Just because of the fact that if not, every future president after this is going to be so afraid to do their job that they might as well get rid of the presidency. And I'm not a fan of that idea, But I think that if this goes the way it should, the way I'm hoping it goes, I would not be surprised at all if even one of the leftist judges joins in the majority decision and says, you know what, you're right, they shouldn't do this because blah, blah, blah. Dude, things happen in the presidency, dude. And when they happen, you need to be able to act, and you can't be afraid of what the consequences might be. I know that sounds crazy, but that's just the way it is. When you're the leader of the free world, you can't be afraid that someone's going to come up and sue you. You just can't. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how else to tell you. It says, President Trump was indicted by Special Counsel Jack Smith in August 2023 on charges of conspiring to overturn the results of the 2020 election. That's another thing. You have the right to question the election results, dude. As a president, as a citizen, as if you guys are out there, you guys have the right to question a presidential election. Don't let these people brainwash you into thinking that you're crazy or that you're dumb or that you're anything else just because you say, hey, the 2020 election, that was super suspicious. There was a bunch of stuff that kind of, made my spider sense tingle a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Don't let people bully you into that. Don't fall into that, okay? Do not let yourself fall into that. Pleading not guilty, the former president has argued that he should have received absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for acts that fell within the scope of his official duties. The exception to this immunity, he has argued, is if Congress impeaches and convicts him on these charges. That is true. That is why we have the impeachment process. A federal appeals court rejected that argument, claiming that presidents must face prosecution for allegedly criminal wrongdoing. Yeah, okay. The question that is now before the Supreme Court is whether and if so, to what extent does the former president enjoy presidential immunity from criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during his tenure in office. During Thursday's deliberations, the justices weighed the claim of absolute immunity that, if adopted, would stop Mr. Smith's prosecution of the former president dead in its tracks. Man, I hope so. Several conservative justices, suggested they favor imposing limits on the prosecution of former presidents while highlighting the importance of the case for the future. Justice Kavanaugh said that when presidents are subject to prosecution, history shows that it's not going to stop. Absolutely. Dude, you prosecute this Republican, now the Republicans are mad at you. The next time the Democrats have another majority, they're going to prosecute the Democrats. Hopefully. Because if you're gonna fight fire, you gotta fight it with fire, man. I don't give a shit what anybody says, man. It's gonna cycle back and be used against the current president or the next president, and the next president, and the next president after that. Justice Neil Gorsuch, who said that the court is writing a rule for the ages, along with Justice Samuel Alito and Justice Kavanaugh, all said that their concern was not so much the case against President Trump, but rather the effect of the ruling on future presidencies. This is exactly why I'm happy that they're on they're sitting on the Supreme Court. They understand the precedent and how powerful this is going to be. You know what I'm saying? The fact that they're setting a precedent. This case has huge implications for the presidency, for the future of the presidency, for the future of our country, Justice Kavanaugh said. Former Deputy Solicitor General Michael Dreeben, who argued for Mr. Smith, said that the framers of the U.S. Constitution never intended for presidents to be above the law. Mr. Dreeben also said that the crimes President Trump is charged with, including allegedly participating in a scheme to enlist dueling electors in battleground states won by President Joe Biden to cast alternate slates of electoral votes for him, weren't a part of the president's official duties. Attorney D. John Sauer, who argued for President Trump, told the justices that without presidential immunity from criminal charges, the presidency as we know it will be changed, contending that the looming threat is that a decision to deny immunity would destroy presidential decision making at a time in the nation's history when it needs to be bold. Absolutely, he's right. This is exactly right. Mr. Sauer argued that the impact of the case would have implications far beyond the question at hand, raising the hypothetical prospect of President Biden facing charges of encouraging illegal immigration with his border policies. There you go. You want to play tit for tat? You want to play tit for tat, baby? Let's go. Let's do it. Justice Kavanaugh expressed concern about the future implications of the case, warning of the prospect of a vicious cycle of malicious prosecutions that could hamper presidents for years to come. Mr. Dreeben contended that the laws currently on the books have not shown that they are prone to abuse, telling the High Court that we've lived from Watergate through the present, through the independent counsel era with all of its flaws, without these prosecutions having gone on a runaway train. Did they prosecute President Nixon? As much as they wanted to, did they prosecute his ass? The answer to that is no. So I don't want to hear this shit about Watergate. I am so sick of stupid leftists saying, oh, but Nixon and Watergate and this and that. He was never prosecuted, ladies and gentlemen. He was never prosecuted. So it's not the same thing. You're not comparing apples to apples here. Justice Kavanaugh argued that the Reagan, Bush, and Clinton presidencies were all hampered by investigations, while suggesting that holding a president accountable is less important than protecting the functioning of the presidency. He raised the question of the risk of a creative prosecutor using vague statutes against a commander-in-chief, telling Mr. Dreeben that this case has huge implications for the presidency and that he was very concerned about the future. Justice Kavanaugh cited the Supreme Court's 1988 decision in Morrison v. Olson, which upheld the constitutionality of the independent counsel statute as one of the court's biggest mistakes because it hampered presidential administrations. He argued that when former presidents are subjected to prosecution, this risks triggering a vicious cycle of vindictive prosecutions. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. What would the reaction be if in an area not covered by the statute, the Justice Department posted a public notice inviting applicants to assist in an investigation and possible prosecution of a certain prominent person, he asked. Does this not invite what Justice Jackson described as picking the man and then searching the law books or putting investigators to work to pin some offense on him? Yeah, I believe that was Stalin. Find me the man and I'll find you the crime or what have you. But yeah, you guys. Oh, guys, serious talk, real talk. We are kind of screwed right now, and it's getting worse. So pray for us, pray for yourselves, and yeah, man, stay safe and stay based.